Krishna. Thank you all for joining in for our continuation of discussion from 4th Canto and 3rd chapter as part of our Bhagavat Life program. So the 4th Canto starts with the lineage, discussion on the lineage of Swayambhuva Manu and Shatarupa, who had 2 sons, Uttanapad and Priyavrat, and 3 daughters, Akuti, Devuti, and Prasuti. And their lineage is being discussed. And now particularly the discussion which is happening in the 2nd chapter and which continues from 3rd and 4th chapter is the story of Sati. Why did Sati, being the beloved child of Daksha, the youngest daughter of Daksha, Daksha had 16 daughters, why Sati would self-immolate her was a point of discussion. Vividuji asked Maitri Muni, and then Maitri Muni began to describe from chapter 2 how at the beginning of the creation a great yajna was performed. Daksha, who was a Prajapati, son of Brahma, in this particular instance, Lord Shiva was also son of Brahma. So Daksha could never understand Lord Shiva's position, and somehow he had a deep-rooted envy for him, which manifested in the form of anger that he exhibited at a yajna sthali. The auspicious situation and a place where all the host of devatas have assembled, along with all sages have assembled. Even at that point of time, a very auspicious occasion, Daksha's heart, seething with envy or anger, exploded. And that explosion resounded across the communities, across his followers, the followers of Lord Shiva, and the Brahmana Samaj. In other words, whoever was present in that assembly got deeply affected, so much so they lost their good sense. They lost their ability to discern what is right conduct or bad conduct, what should be spoken, not to be spoken. We speak about Lord Shri Krishna. The very first instruction that he gives to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita is Matas Pasha Sukanteya Shitoshna Sukadukadha Agama Paino Nityas Tams Titikshva Bharata. Arjuna learned to tolerate. It's a very, very meaningful instruction for those who believe in God, those who do not believe in God, and those who are hung in between, that is agnostics. For everyone, if you have to live in this world, we got to have this tolerance. And recently we were speaking on the quality of tolerance. So we're talking about how important this quality of tolerance is for one's life, talking about its personal application, application in professional life, or application towards social life. And I was discussing Yudhishthira Maharaj's examples for it, how he exhibited. When you talk about personal life, particularly in the Vanaparva, we note and we see how Draupadi, Draupadi would always get into conflict with Yudhishthira Maharaj. She was seething with anger. Why? Because Draupadi had been deeply insulted, publicly humiliated. And Draupadi was a Kshatrani, and she wanted, in one way you can call revenge. And Yudhishthira Maharaj wanted to go through with the 13 years of exile which was given to them. And every morning Draupadi would wake up, and when she would see Yudhishthira Maharaj is peacefully sitting with Dhaumi Rishi and the host of sadhus engaged in meaningful conversation, and Yudhishthira Maharaj totally oblivious of what's happening around, or maybe totally oblivious to the history, to the past that they had to undergo, and to the fact that they were the king of the whole world. They had everything that they earned by their hard labor. Now they don't have anything. Not only they have wealth, they lost all the respect. And when Draupadi would see that, she would become extremely upset. And there was often an outburst from Draupadi. And very interesting, Draupadi would speak at times in an angry tone, but Yudhishthira Maharaj would pacify Draupadi. There's not even a single incident across the 13 years of exile, even at that point of time with Draupadi later on in the 13th year, in the incognito, when her chastity or her character was humiliated or insulted. Once again, this time While in the Sabha Parv, or in the assembly of Dhritarashtra, Dushasana pulled her by her ears. This time in the assembly of Virata, she was kicked and thrown in the assembly by, what's his name? Kichak, by Kichak. So much insulted, so much humiliated. And when Draupadi wanted revenge, she wanted this Kichak to be punished. What did Yudhishthira reply? Shanti, Shanti, Draupadi, Shanti. बस कुछ समय की बात रह गई है. Tolerate. And Draupadi just could not tolerate how Yudhishthira could tolerate so much. And like that, Yudhishthira exercised in his personal life. Interestingly, when he asked her to tolerate, he also tolerated the harsh words of Draupadi, because he could empathize with Draupadi's situation, knowing very well that Draupadi, the background that she's coming from, she's not wrong. It's but obvious and anyone would be hurt, but what has happened, but he exercised like that. You can meditate on Yudhishthira Maharaj's character and see how did that, either in his professional life, towards his, let's take an example, what examples I was giving, and then towards his social life, we see that how Jayadratha had kidnapped Draupadi. That time also he said, forgive him, don't kill him. He was worried about Dushala, right? Dushala, right? Duryodhana's sister, her name. And then in the case of when Ashwathama killed the sons of Draupadi, including Yudhishthira's son, that time I said, okay, think about Kripi, because she has already lost her husband, like that. So he exercised that. So anyways, so forbearance. So that's the subject matter which has been highlighted through this particular episode. And those who lack this forbearance, anger is just but the natural response. And this chapter and discussion highlights the consequences of anger. So now moving forward to chapter 3 with that little prelude. Chapter 3 is one of the smallest chapters, have 25 verses approximately, if I'm correct. And here the story resumes at one point of time in the history. It is not mentioned after how long, but story resumes. So where did the story concluded? Both the parties curses each other. Lord Shiva came out of samadhi, saw what's happening, became upset. He walked away. Nandi followed behind, and Daksha left the assembly. And those sages who assembled behind, they've completed the yajna, and now everyone have gone back. So once upon a time in the history, which means later on after this episode, chapter 3, text number begins. What does Maitreya Muni says? Maitreya vacham sada vidatsatorevam kalo vaidriyamanayo jamatoho shvashurasyapi sammahan atichakrame. Maitreya continued, in this manner, the tension between the father-in-law and son-in-law, Daksha and Lord Shiva, continued for a considerably long period, like this. Prabhupada gives a summary here. So now Maitreya Muni continues, coming forward to the reason why Sati gave up her life, because the previous chapter discussion didn't brought up to that. So after giving a historical background to the conflict between Shiva and Daksha, now Maitreya Muni is going to talk about that incident which led to Sati committing suicide, like this. Beautiful, beautiful lessons here. Let's go to text number 2. Okay. So Prabhupada gives a good summary. Let's take a little bit of the Prabhupada. Generally, I'm reading from the beginning. Generally, when any sacrifice is performed, although each and every sacrifice is performed intended to pacify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhoktaram Yagna Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwara. Vishnu, all the Devatas, especially Brahma and Shiva, and other principal Devatas, such as Indra and Chandra, are invited and they take part. It is said that unless all the Devatas are present, no sacrifice is complete. But in the tension between father-in-law and son-in-law, Daksha began another yajna sacrifice, to which Lord Shiva was not invited. Daksha was a chief progenitor employed by Lord Brahma. And he was a son of Brahma, so he had a high position, and he was also very proud. That's the consequence of material life, and we can see that around. When you're absorbed in material tabernacles, so we get carried away by the modes of material nature. It's very interesting. In the first canto, we read about Sukadeva Goswami, if you remember the story. When Sukadeva Goswami entered the assembly where Parikshit Maharaj was sitting along with other sages, there's a very interesting scene described of Sukadeva's entry. Now, when Sukadeva Goswami was walking through the streets of different villages and towns, people were throwing stones at him, considering to be a madman. And in that setup, he enters. And when he enters, he looked totally oblivious of what people were literally doing to him. You know, ladies and the young kids were throwing stones, curses to him, calling him as a madman. But Sukadeva Goswami was totally unaffected. Fast forward to 4th canto, chapter number 3. In this chapter later on, we'll see when Lord Shiva says it's not a good idea to go, he gives a reason. He gives a reason why, not only you should go, why I should not go. And he said, how can I forget the harsh words spoken by your father? And then Srila Vishnu Thakur writes that Lord Shiva was hurt. And the question is raised, Lord Shiva did not got up to offer respect to Daksha because he was in Samadhi. If he's in Samadhi, then he's in transcendental position. And if he's in a transcendental position, then Sukadeva Goswami never got affected. How come Lord Shiva got affected? Are you making this, getting the connection here? So then Srila Vishnu Thakur in this context explains, well, in case of Lord Shiva, because he is a predominating deity of mode of ignorance, he sometimes do get affected. And because of that association and influence, he felt hurt. And Vishnachari Thakur, in fact, Srila Jiva Goswami gives another example while talking about this in his Sandarbhas. He says, well, let's take a case of Lord Shiva. Lord Krishna. Now, Krishna is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God. It doesn't matter he's newborn or he's on the chariot of Arjuna. It doesn't matter. It's not that he forgets. It's not that he has to learn Vedaham Smatithan. He knows everything, past, present, future. We may not know him is a different thing. And now see how Mother Yashoda caught Krishna to Ukhal. How gopis would sometimes chastise, who caught Krishna by hand. Hey, तूने मेरे घर में चोरी करा है? चल मैं तेरी शिकायत करती हूँ. So imagine, Krishna being treated like this. And Hanumanji can never tolerate anyone treat Lord Ram like this. You get the point, no? But Krishna never felt bad. Mother Yashoda chastised, anyone chastised, the friends who chastised, Lord Krishna never felt bad. And that not as Jiva Goswami says, because what happens between them was entirely spiritual. There was not even an iota of modes of material nature. So what I'm trying to make here is, coming back to Daksha's incident, so Daksha's personality represents a very successful individual in a material life who happens to take pride in his accomplishments. Sometimes people take pride even when they don't have any accomplishments. That's the nature of Kali Yuga. They don't have good qualities, they're not even successful, yet they have a lot of pride. But the nature of material world is like this, and Daksha is representing such an individual who has become proud of his accomplishments. Like a statement goes, even a beggar is proud of his penny. So like that. In case of Daksha, he definitely had a lot of accomplishment. He has a high parentage. Janma, Aishwarya, Shuta, Shibir. He had all the four. He had all the four in a great extent. But does not mean he had to become proud, but he became proud. And he became proud. Why? We'll get to know of this more in the 5th canto when Priyavrat Maharaj, he never wanted to get married. He didn't want to go and get involved into all that affair. But when Brahmaji came, then finally Narad Muni came, and when he took on to that devotion, took on to that service, that's where the difficulty lies. You cannot be of this world or function in this world without getting in touch with the material energy. And the moment you get in touch with material energy, we get covered and influenced by that. It's very beautiful. Priyavat Maharaj, before taking on to Grihastha Ashram, he said, no, I'm not going to do it because I'm worried I would lose my connection with the Lord. Lord Brahma blessed him, don't worry. I bless you, you will be protected. Despite that, when you read in the 5th canto, in the initial chapter, the first 3 chapter talks about Priyavat Maharaj. At one point of time, in his household duties and in his Rajya Dharma, he got so involved. A good amount of time he forgot. For a good amount of time he forgot. It's not that he became an atheist or something, but that preference, that priority that should be given to spiritual life was forgotten. And it took a while for him to realize, and then he regretted, and that's the time he left. So that's a pretty interesting challenge. And this challenge is there for devotees also. It doesn't matter you're Grihastha or Brahmachari or Sannyasi. If we have to render devotional service, we got to interact with material energy. Anything. You want to distribute a book, you're meeting with the personification of material energies on the streets. Personification of mode of passion, mode of ignorance, well, really mode of goodness. And you interact with them, all things can happen. So that's the idea. So it's a little difficult path, not the bhakti is difficult, but to navigate our life in this world therefore becomes difficult. So what do you think is a good challenge or not a good challenge? How do you look at the situation? It's a practical situation, practical problem for everyone. None of us. I have too much experience of it. I'm often doing something. We have our Evolve IT Park here. We're launching products, we're doing something or other. So much of my time goes in touch with material energy. So much of my time at times goes doing. Yesterday I was doing something. I was spending hours together learning about something because I thought, that will be pretty good for our project. Almost 6-7 hours I was sitting and going through those things. I ended up with a headache at the end of the day. What was I saying? So what do you think? Good challenge, bad challenge? Why life has to be so complicated? Why we as a devotee can only be in spiritual life, spiritual energy, nothing to do with material energy? Let Krishna provide roti kapda makan. Anyways, he's providing. Why I have to struggle for my basic necessities? Let me stay in the ashram. Why I have to go onto the streets and deal with these karmis? Okay, that's one thing. Imagine going to door in the apartment. You don't know what surprise holds you there. What comes out behind the door is a hidden mystery. We have had all kind of experiences. I hope and pray that you all don't go through all experiences that we have seen. I've gone through all kind of experiences. Therefore I made a policy, nobody should go alone. It's too dangerous to go alone. You don't know what's going to come out of my side. Better go in, as a pair, so at least you're protected. So what do you think about any thoughts? Even if we are situated, we are practicing, we can be derailed anytime because of a prolonged touch with material energy. But to function in this world, we have to deal with it. Any thoughts on it? Is my question a little clear? How do you see it? Do we become bogged down, disheartened, disappointed, or do we take it as a challenge? There are two ways. We can become hopeless or we can feel helpless. Question is what path we choose. We become hopeless, then the whole idea was taking shelter of our own strength, thinking that I could fight and win over. We become helpless. That means we were always dependent. And knowing that I really cannot do it, I need to take shelter of the Lord. So the greater the challenges, the more helplessness should arise within us, not hopelessness. And that is the positive side. That's a good thing. Otherwise, we come from a very heavy conditioning of false ego because of being in this creation for so long. And if we need to rise above it, we should not pray to become hopeless. We should pray to become helpless. And the more and the bigger the challenge is put forward to us, the more setbacks we face in our life and devotional life while moving forward, please don't be hopeless. Feel helpless. And when you feel helpless, then our ability to take shelter, then our ability to chant attentively, then to read and hear would become strengthened. And this is what our Dharma teaches. This is what it means by becoming resilient. Resilient, which this is a very pretty common word these days in modern life, bouncing back. So devotee has to be like that. Therefore Prabhupada says it's a battle. It's not that you get hurt in a battle, you walk away, you run away like the Kauravas. No, we fight back, we fight back. Okay, that's a little background to it. Let's continue to go with this discussion now. Text number 2. Yada vishikto dakshastu brahmana parameshtina prajapatinam sarvesham adipatye samayo abhavat. When Lord Brahma appointed Daksha, the chief of all the Prajapatis, the progenitor of population, Daksha became very much puffed up. So, looks like Brahmaji had not treated Daksha after the last incident. It was not something that Brahmaji had not witnessed. Brahmaji had himself witnessed. He had a first-hand experience. Acharya says, I'm not saying Brahmaji made a mistake, but it looks like an important lesson that we can learn from here. Before empowering anyone, we need to be careful. Has that person recovered from his past mistakes? Somebody has done a mistake, and if we empower him again, then it will further drown him, because the power really destroys the consciousness. What can keep ourselves aligned with? Only when we are humble, when we are servant of the servant. The moment we get this thought that I am the master of the servant, it can really, really destroy us. So here Daksha has been now appointed as a Prajapati, the chief of all the Prajapati, which means chief of all the sages, Kashyapa Muni, you name it, Kapila Muni, not Kapila Muni, Kashyapa Muni, Kadama Muni, these are all Prajapatis, have been appointed as chief. Now all of them have to come and offer respect to him. Yes, sir. Salam, sir. This is a big thing can happen. It looked like Daksha have not recovered from his past mistake. He had not even realized that he had done a mistake, which means Brahmaji did not, actually being his father and being his service authority, did not apparently took any action, is what appears over here. Text number 3. Ishtasa vajapena brahmashtan abhibhuyacha brahaspati savam nama samarebe kratuttamam. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada used to say, it's a great blessing for one to know one's weaknesses, one's mistakes. So His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj was addressing a question asked in this context, and Maharaj said, one's ability to understand one's weakness and one's mistake is also the grace of the Lord. For example, we read, let's say, in the 4th canto only, the King Prithu Maharaj example will come. And now when Indra made a mistake, Lord personally appeared and rectified that mistake. So the question comes, how does the Lord appears in a Vaishnava's life and rectify for him? We see so many examples of the Lord coming up personally and helping. So why not for us? This was the question in that context. Maharaj said, well, in other words, that was not a complete question. The question was, question was, when we do a mistake, how do we know a Lord is protecting us or Lord has given up on us? So Maharaj said, Lord is protecting us, which means you would realize that you're making mistake. And if you're not realizing, which means Lord have already given up on you. And what Maharaj making the point was, if you make a mistake and you get a reaction, you get a punishment, that's a mercy of the Lord. You make a mistake, and if you don't get any punishment, and it goes unpunished, which means your behavior is not going to change. And you will keep on doing that, which means you might keep on continuing more Vaishnava Prada, you may keep doing more abuse to yourself, which means Lord has already withdrawn mercy. So the sign of mercy is rectification. In case of Daksha, it doesn't look like he had that mercy. And well, he did a first class Vaishnava aparadh to a first class devotee. So he didn't got that mercy. And as a result, because he didn't got the Lord's mercy, he left unpunished. Nobody rectified him, nobody corrected him, and now he's about to make a bigger mistake, and because of which his whole family going to get destroyed. In other words, his daughter will be killed, he himself will be killed, and so many people will be killed like that. So now what's going to happen looks like is a karmic reaction for him. But in case the first case, if Daksha had the mercy of the Lord, then he would have been corrected then and there. It didn't happen. So it's a question for all of us to ask in our life. Well, it's very difficult to really realize. But even if you we can do this thing when we look back in our life, or maybe we can do this way. While we are going through with our life, and if you make mistakes, and if you get correction for it, see it as the mercy of the Lord. Don't see it, "Arey, mujhe kyo punishment diya?" Because if you challenge that, then Krishna will say, then what's the point of it? If you don't see it as a mercy, then I stop doing it. Now imagine if you want to continue living the life as you're living without getting corrected, where do we end up? Or where would we end up after a while? That's progressive, that's not progressive at all. So we should be grateful when we get corrected. Seeing that, it is Krishna who's guiding. Text number 3, we discussed. Daksha began the sacrifice named Vajapaya, became excessively confident of his support by Lord Brahma. He then performed another great sacrifice named Brahaspati Sawa. Okay, so Prabhupada is interesting thing in the Prabhupada. All sacrifices are intended to pacify Lord Vishnu, but Lord Vishnu includes all his devotees. Very good point. Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Devtas are all obedient servants of Lord Vishnu. This is the 6th line from the Prabhupada. Therefore, Lord Vishnu is never satisfied without them. But Daksha, being puffed up with his power, wanted to deprive Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva of participation in the sacrifice, understanding that if he once satisfied Vishnu, it is not necessary to satisfy his followers. But that is not the process of what looks like here. Daksha has not only not invited Shiva, he had not even invited Brahma. Because in the previous discussion we saw, he was mad at Brahma also. He was blaming Brahma for, convincing him to give his most beautiful daughter to the most unworthy husband, Lord Shiva. Because of you, I gave my daughter. So he was blaming Lord Brahma. So it looks like here, he didn't invite Brahma, what to speak of Lord Shiva also. And he was thinking, oh, I am a great person, I can approach Vishnu directly. And Prabhupada says, well, you cannot approach Vishnu directly without his devotees. Which means, a very important point can be reflected here. For Daksha, who was his authority? Brahma. And what he did? He sided Brahma and he wanted to get direct access to higher authority. Are you getting it? It does not work. It does not work. This is a neophyte behavior. Where we think, okay, push aside my mentor, counselor, whatever you call it, and now let me be in touch with my Guru Maharaj, or maybe in touch with Guru Parampara. Well, it doesn't work like that. Service of Vaishnava is very important. So that's a point. Text number 4. While the sacrifice was being performed, many Brahma Rishis, great sages, ancestral demigods, devtas, the wives, all very nicely decorated ornaments attended from different parts of the universe. Prabhupada talks about here the idea behind decorating nicely. Why would they decorate nicely? And the Prabhupada says, well, this is an auspicious time, so you should look the best of you. The same thing is described in 10th Canto when all the Brajavasis went to attend Krishna's birthday ceremony. And then Sukadeva Goswami to details described how the gopis were looking like, how gopis dressed themselves, how the gopas dressed themselves like that. Text number 5 to 7. The chaste lady Sati, the daughter of Daksha, heard the heavenly denizens flying in the sky, conversing about the great sacrifice being performed by her father. When she saw that from all directions the beautiful wives of the heavenly denizens, their eyes very beautifully glittering, were near her residence, were going to the sacrifice dressed in fine clothing and ornamented with earrings and necklaces, with lockets, she approached her husband, the master of the Bhutas, in great anxiety, and spoke as follows. We men can never speak about the heart of a woman. The woman can understand what would be the situation of Sati. So imagine you are standing in the balcony, and right opposite balcony, I believe for us, right opposite balcony is of Kamalnath Prabhu. Imagine right opposite balcony, Kavanath Prabhu throws a party, Kirtan party. Imagine none of us are invited. How many feel bad? Think about it. अरे कीर्तन चल रहा है, इतने सारे वैष्णव आए हैं, हमारे सेंटर में रहा, हमारे संग मिलजुल के रहा, हमने बड़ा करा, यहाँ यहीं से सेंटर से होके क्या गृहस्था क्या बन गया, हमें भूल गया. And just give an example, you know. Now imagine what will be the situation of Sati. She is the daughter of Daksha. Again, as a man, you will feel hurt. We really can't understand the woman's heart. She's extremely pained. She's aggrieved. And women like to socialize. Man is not such a social animal as per se. Women loves to socialize. They really like to be along with their family members, and that too along with their sisters and brothers. Everyone is there. No, she was not a single daughter. She didn't born to Kalyuga parents. One sibling. So no problem. Nahi gaye to. She had 15 other sisters. Can you imagine how much relationship bond they would have? Now my 15 other sisters are coming. I haven't seen them so long. There's a great festivity. And now she has not been invited. Imagine Sati standing in the balcony and looking at Kamala's balcony. Everyone enjoying, having great feast. And she's looking, Mera kya? Kitna bura lagega na? Still you can't understand. Only mother can understand what probably is happening with Mother Sati here. So I will not speak about that because I don't know much about it. Text number 8. Sati vacham prajapatiste shvasurasya sampratam naryapito yagna mahatsabha kila vayam chatatra vishramavamati yadi arthitame vibhudavajanti. Sati said, my dear Lord Shiva, your father-in-law is now executing great sacrifices, and all the devtas having been invited by him are going there. If you so desire, you may also go. So have you ever noticed when somebody say, if you desire, do so? Imagine you're sitting in a prasadam line and you love gulab jamun and you got one gulab jamun and you see that there's an opportunity for another gulab jamun. Then many times devotees do. Hey, तेरे को चाहिए क्या? बुलाऊं क्या उसको? तेरे लिए. How would you feel? Tell me if you want. So when he will come, he'll get one serving. So then obviously he'll ask, आपको भी दो क्या? ठीक है, मुझे भी दे दो. So Mother Sati is saying, Krishna, oh, Lord Shiva, if you so desire, let us go. So in other words, she submitted her desire very politely to her husband. But who wants to go? Sati wants to go. That's the whole idea. Text number 9. I think that all my sisters must have gone to this great sacrificial ceremony with their husbands, just to see their relatives. I also desire to decorate myself with the ornaments given to me by my father and go there with you to participate in that assembly. Now imagine Sati assuming the relatives have gone. Imagine today's situation. You know, you are getting live updates on your WhatsApp group, family group. Hey, you're having this much fun, and you're looking, Arey, mera kya chal raha hai? I mean, how much anger we built up today? If in case you're into that situation, don't get too much mad. Empathize with that other person. How much affected the person? Yes, Sati is assuming what will be happening. You're doing a YouTube live. You know, you're seeing the status probably. Reel has been created from your family function or whatnot. What will happen? Anyways, Prabhupada here talks about the nature of Sati, the nature of Stri and all that. You can read it for yourself, otherwise it will become a very lengthy discussion. But to make 1 or 2 points about women's psychology, these are hard facts. We got to accept it and we got to deal with it. And that's why Yudhishthira Maharaj was so amicable towards Mother Draupadi, knowing that, you know, from what background she's coming, what's the nature. Now, for a lady, social isolation is very dangerous. I myself have so many times emphasized that our mothers in our community need to have their forum. They need to bond with each other. If they don't bond with each other, their dependency would remain on their relatives. And if their relatives are non-devotees, then their mind will always remain absorbed in that kind of a conversation. They'll remain always affected. They'll sit and chant and they'll think about, oh, my sister did that, oh, my brother did that, oh, my mama did like that. So we need to replace that. And mothers need to have their forum where they come together, either they meet, they read together, and they bond well with each other, and they identify that to be as their social circle like that. That's one of the points. Okay, Prabhupada writes in the Prabhupada about Lord Shiva. So Mother Sati wanted to decorate, that's the nature of a woman. This is totally acceptable, nothing to be discussed. Text number 10. My sister, my mother's sister, and their husbands, all other affectionate relatives must be assembled there. So if I go, I shall be able to see them. I shall be able to see the flapping flags, the performance of the sacrifice by the great sages. For these reasons, my dear husband, I am very much anxious to go. This brings about a beautiful reflection. Sati is no ordinary person. Sati is no ordinary person. Even a great personality like Sati, she is Mother Parvati, even they at times can show weakness. We need to be a little more resilient in our dealings with others while being in a community. They become very hard or strict, brittle or brutal, in the sense if anyone in certain situation expresses or exhibits weakness, then we say he's or she's of no use, no good. That is not the way it is. I mean, Mother Sati, and this is what the beauty of Srimad Bhagavatam, you come across great personalities. Another, you will read about 6th Canto, Chitraketu Maharaj. Now, do you think Chitraketu Maharaj would have got married to any Tom, Dick and Harry? How great those ladies would be. Even they were carried away by the feelings of envy. I'm not trying to justify their case. I'm trying to say, this material nature is full of faults. If somebody shows faults, it's not a surprise. If somebody does not show fault, दाल में कुछ काला है, या तो दाल ही काली है. It's just not possible in this creation. It's not possible like that. And a beautiful example that comes to my mind in this context is of Dashrath Maharaj. Think about it. Did he show weakness? Yes, he showed weakness. When he saw KK crying, he became so overwhelmed. He said, "Bolo, kya tumhari ichha hai?" And KK said, "Okay, I'm willing to come out of the situation if you promise to fulfill those 3 blessings that you had agreed upon." Dashrath Maharaj, without thinking much, because of his getting carried by emotions, and he loved KK, so he said yes. Dashrath Maharaj could not take a strong action towards KK. And who is Dashrath Maharaj? Father of Lord Ram. Father of Lord Ram. And it's such a beauty, we don't see anyone. Of course, some common men criticize Dashrath Maharaj as a womanizer or a hand-picked husband, etc. You don't see Lord Ram. Of course, Lakshman became angry. Well, Lakshman's role play in that Ramayana is of an angry man. He was angry at Bharat also. He was angry in my situation like that. That's a different thing. Bharat never became angry. Shatrughan never became angry. Nobody. Vashishta Muni never became angry. Nobody found fault with Dashrath Maharaj. He just got carried away. He just got carried away. So one thing you got to realize when we read through this, again, never become hopeless. You can feel helpless, but never become hopeless. So all these wonderful historical narrations are hope-giving in the sense we are not going with the flow, we are going against the flow. If you ever swim, when you swim downstream, there is hardly an effort. When we try to swim upstream, there's so much effort. And we are trying to go against the flow of material nature. The challenges inbound. There are going to be a lot of challenges. Devotees may show some weaknesses at times, and the leader, knowing that, may pardon off or may take a particular stance, but we at our situation sometimes say, oh, how can this happen? This should not happen, that should not happen. We should try to reflect back on such cases and take a little neutral stand. Don't become too objective about individuals and also about the leader's decision for that. Everyone is culpable to mistakes in this world. Text number 11. This manifested cosmos is a wonderful creation of the interaction of the three modes of nature. The truth is fully known to you, O Lord Shiva, yet I am but a poor woman, and as you know, I am not conversant with the truth. Therefore, I wish to see my birthplace once more. Now, it's very difficult for Lord Shiva to understand Sati's situation. But Lord Shiva doesn't live in any society. He's a mendicant. He is the greatest renunciate. And to the greatest renunciate, somebody is talking about her attachment to family members. And Shiva is thinking, मेरी माँ बाप कौन है भाई? अपना तो माई बाप ही नहीं हुई. How do I understand what emotion means for my बाप? Well, he has gone from Lord Brahma, right? Now, who is his siblings? One sibling, Daksha, he hates him. Of course, Narad Muni is there, but he doesn't see Narad Muni as a sibling. He sees as a devotee. So, what I'm trying to say is, Lord Shiva is above all this. And to Mother Sati's coming and putting forward her request to Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva is like totally neutral, like this. So, Prabhupada says, well, Mother Sati's reaction is of a less intelligent person. Now, less intelligent person in the context of in relation to somebody who's in a transcendental position. You getting it? So, this is but a natural reaction, but this is fine. What it is. This is what happens naturally. Conditional nature. Okay. Prabhupada talking about man-woman association, that's you all can read it. Text number 12. O never born, O blue-throated one, right? Nilkant. Not only my relatives, but also the women dressed in nice clothes, decorated with ornaments, are going there with their husbands and friends. Just see how their flocks of white airplanes have made the entire sky very beautiful. Very interesting. Now, she makes a pretty interesting point here. I read that on. O never born, unborn. O Nilkant, not only my relatives, but also the women dressed in nice clothes and decorated ornaments are going there with their husbands and friends. Just see how their flocks of white airplanes have made the entire sky very beautiful. Prabhupada writes, Sati wanted, in the middle of the purport, wanted to impress upon her husband that even those who were not related to her father were also going, to say nothing of herself who was intimately related with him. Lord Shiva is addressed here as blue-throated. Nilkant, we know that. So very interestingly, she is giving a reference of her connection to her father. Traditionally, we see problems across the in-laws happen between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. In this case, the problem is not a stereotype problem. The problem is of father-in-law and son-in-law. The point to be noted here is, in material world, you don't know in what way problem can come. Don't think problem can exist only in one way. Only problem has to happen between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. In case of Sati, she didn't have mother-in-law only. So there is a question of a problem. So now the family had to have some trouble. So who got into trouble? Lord Shiva got into trouble with father-in-law. So family had to get into some trouble. That's the point. Text number 13. O master of the Devatas, how can the body of a daughter remain undisturbed when she hears that some festive event is taking place in her father's house? So she is trembling. Even though you may be considering that I have not been invited, there is no harm if one goes to the house of one's friend, husband, spiritual master, or father without invitation. So what will you do? Standing on the balcony, looking across Kamalnath's balcony. अरे हमारा ही तो दोस्त है, नहीं बुलाया तो चले जाना चाहिए. देखो खुशी खुशी सब छप्पन भोग खा रहे हैं, कितना बढ़िया कीर्तन चल रहा है, मुझे भी जाना चाहिए. Uninvited, what's the problem? After all, we are friend only. Mother Sati is saying that one's friend, husband, spiritual master, or father without invitation. What will he do without invitation? I'm just asking. What will you do? I'm not sure if Kalnathpur is part of the class. So don't mind. Huh? Sorry, I'm taking your case just because your window is right across our window. So I'm just reminded of that. So what do you all do? What do you think you will do? How many will say will go? Okay, many will say will go. Okay. How many say, nahi bulaya main. So Sati is thinking Lord Shiva had taken at his ego. That's what Sati is thinking. So some of you thought you will not go and other friend want to go. Then what he will tell you? इतना ego क्यों ले रहा है यार? अपना ही तो दोस्त है. चल. That's what Mother Sati is thinking. Shiva, what's the problem? If not invited, after all, I am his daughter. Why invitation needed within the family? So because she is attached to the idea of going, so she is not able to see that way. In our case, we are attached to the idea of having chappan bhog. So we are not bothered about invitation or no invitation. And no set up, problem kya hai? And that too on top of it, when you are not living in a center, you're just living from some use together and you have to cook your dinner. And you're just going to prepare khichdi. That time you will not think of shame or no shame. अरे हमारा दोस्त है ना वो जाना चाहिए वहां पर. Text number 14. O immortal Shiva, please be kind toward me and fulfill my desire. You have accepted me as half of your body. Therefore, please show kindness towards me and accept my request. Karpanyadushu vahata svabhava vachami tvam dharma samudachetaha yashe hasana shitam rohitan me shishya sihansadimam prapannam. Well, that does not hold true here. Although she is kind of asking for permission and guidance, but she is not actually asking. Unlike Arjuna asked, Shishyastham sadimam tvam prapannam. So it appears somebody is taking our guidance. How do you reconcile this? Let's put forward this question for a thought. Arjuna approaching Krishna, please guide me. He was also attached to his idea to quit. And we see that repeatedly he will come to that idea. And okay, my dear Lord, then I should also go to the forest. 3rd chapter. Krishna is Yadyadatari Shrishtas. And repeatedly it goes on. Then 8th chapter, Krishna says, Antakale Chamameva, Yamim Vapis Marva. So Arjuna thought, wow, yeah, really, if I fight with all these Kauravas, I'll remember their faces at the end of my life. I quit. Again, Krishna, Tasma Sarve Shubharata, Mahamanusmara Yudhyaja. No, fight. So there's a repeated. So Arjuna was attached. Here Sati is also attached. And Sati is saying, Tanme prasidedam amrityavanchitam kartum bhavankarni ko batahati tavyat manodeham adhara chakshusha nirupita manugrahana yachitaha. O immortal Shiva, please be kind toward me and fulfill my desire. You accepted me as half of your body, therefore please show kindness towards me and accept my request. Is there any difference between how Sati is approaching? Sati is asking for permission. Well, yeah, it looks like there's a difference because Arjuna asked the question, what should I do? Sati did not ask, what should I do? Sati said, just let me go. So there's a difference, yeah, there's a difference, isn't it? So the category cannot say kappa in this. Text number 15. So until this verse, Mother Sati side has been presented. It's a beautiful section. We can go in details to really look into the psychology of this incident, but we'll not go in detail. And from 15th verse onwards up to the 25th verse, now Lord Shiva will respond. That is worthy of discussion again. I don't want to rush it up. It's getting 8:45 and we kind of decided our class timing to be up to 8:45 or 8:40. I'll just read the next verse and we'll pause and do a quick recap. Text number 15. The great sage Maitreya said, Lord Shiva, the deliverer of the hill Kailash, having thus been addressed by his dear wife, replied smilingly. Although at the same time he remembered the malicious, heart-piercing speeches delivered by Daksha before the guardians of the universal affairs. So Maitreya Muni is directly indicating Daksha was a fault-finding host. Last time Shiva went, he found fault. So this time also he'll find. That's the reason said, heart-piercing speeches delivered by Daksha before the guardians of the universal affair. When Lord Shiva heard from his wife about Daksha, the psychological effect was that he immediately remembered the strong words spoken against him in the assembly of the guardians of the universe. And remembering those words, he was sorry at heart. Although to please his wife, he smiled. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that a liberated person is always in mental equilibrium in both distress, sukhe dukhe samay kritva lava lava, jaya jaya. There's a question maybe now be raised by liberated. I've already explained. Well, Lord Shiva was affected. That's the point being addressed here. Although he being an Atmaram, so then why he felt disturbed by it like this? For instance, once Lord Krishna, so this whole purport, again, this is what I've established before. Lord Shiva was affected, whereas in case of Lord Krishna, although he was being chastised by Mother Yashoda and all that, but there are never such kind of situation, right? Prabhupada said that is the difference between the material and spiritual worlds. The spiritual world where everything is pure is perfectly reflected in the material world, since everything in the spiritual world is absolute, and the spiritual varieties of apparent pleasure and pain, there is no perception other than eternal bliss. Whereas in the material world, because everything is contaminated by the modes of material nature, there are feelings of pleasure and pain. Therefore, because Lord Shiva, although a fully self-realized person, was in charge of the material mode of ignorance, thus he felt sorrow. Hare Krishna. Now we'll hear next time how did Lord Shiva responded to Sati. Lord Shiva, who is completely renounced, who is one of the greatest Vaishnavas, how would he empathize with Sati? He has no concept of mother, father, siblings, and all that. It is beyond all that bodily identification. So, how would somebody who is so advanced now has to deal with somebody who is exhibiting his material attachments or weakness due to material attachments? How would such a person respond? In other words, Lord Shiva in a position of a mentor, where your mentee is kind of demanding such a thing. How should a mentor respond to it? How should we react? Something we learn from Lord Shiva. Of course, different devotees can react differently, but one of the ways to respond to such a situation, we'll see that he almost did the same way as Arjuna did to Arjuna. Yatha ichasi tatha kuru. Arjuna, I have told you everything that you need to do, you decide. And Lord Shiva said, Sati, I have told you everything that I need to tell you, you decide. Sati said, what to decide? I leave. And the next chapter will talk about Sati leaving. And she had such an angry look towards Lord Shiva. Well, wife can do it. Disciple should not do it. That's the difference in relationship. And she had such an angry, didn't give me permission. And she walked. And because she walked, so the entourage of Lord Shiva also accompanied. And then the another also went along with Mother Sati. You can't send her alone, right? So they went like that. That will be described in the next chapter. So I thank all for your kind attention. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anyone has any question or comment on this? Beautiful case study. I spoke a few things. I don't even remember what all we discussed about. One thing is, why material nature, dealing with material nature at times becomes challenging. It is only good because then it pushes us to come out of a comfort zone. But there are two ways to react, feeling hopeless and feeling helpless. Devotee never becomes hopeless. Even we are punched by material energy, we'll get up again and fight. We'll continue the battle. But now, not on our strength, but feeling helpless, we completely beaten down, taking shelter of Guru and Gauranga, will move forward. Secondly, we talked about even a great personalities like Mother Sati showed weakness. So what to say of us, who already have so much weaknesses? So we need to be a little more empathetic and empathize. And classic example is Srila Prabhupada, how he dealt with his disciples' weaknesses. He never disowned anyone. He just kept them engaging in one way or other way, like that. And no discussion of faults of other Vaishnavas. That should always be done in private. So like this, we talked about it, and we also saw that how Daksha apparently has been empowered, but he had not been corrected. So I was making a point, remembering His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, one particular lecture question answer. How do we know, we're receiving Lord's mercy? one sign of Lord's mercy is we're getting correction. Because if you don't get correction, then you keep doing the same mistake. And now tomorrow you'll make a bigger mistake, because mistake keeps on growing in volume, and you make a bigger mistake. So if we have been checked right in the early stage, which means a form of a correction has come to us, that is the mercy of the Lord. That is not the quality of your teacher or your parents for that reason. So that's the difference we saw. In case of Daksha, it looks like he didn't have that mercy of the Lord. Therefore, he will end up making a bigger mistake now. And so much chaos will happen, which didn't even occur during the first assembly. And it makes sense that Daksha didn't have the mercy of the Lord because he offended the best of the Vaishnavas. In other words, offending Vaishnava who was completely entranced with the Lord is disrespect to the Lord. So cannot be forgiven. All right, thank you for your kind attention. Okay, so we pause here. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.